Have you ever opened up Business Central, looked at all those posting groups, and just thought, where do I even start? If that's you, you're in the right place. We are going to completely demystify this whole system and show you how to make it your best friend, not your enemy.
Think about it for a second. Businesses are processing thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of transactions every single day. Sales, purchases, inventory moves. Without a really smart system, your books would be an absolute mess. It'd be total chaos. But when it's set up right, it's not chaos at all. It's like a perfectly choreographed dance. And that's exactly what posting groups are for.
You know, the best way to think about posting groups is like a GPS for your money. Seriously, every single time you post a transaction, the posting group is that little voice inside the system saying, okay, this bit of revenue, it needs to go to the sales domestic account. It gives every single dollar and cent the exact turn-by-turn directions it needs to get to the right place in your chart of accounts.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to stick with this GPS idea and get that 30,000-foot view. Then, we'll zoom right in on the engine that makes it all work, something I call the who and the what. After that, we'll actually follow a transaction on its journey, meet some of the specialist groups. And then, right at the end, I'm going to share the one big secret that'll make you an absolute pro at this.
Okay, so before we dive into the deep end, let's just take a step back. Let's look at the big picture. Because once you understand the overall flow, the journey your data takes, everything else just clicks into place.
So it all kicks off with what we call master data. That's your customers, your vendors, your items. Think of them as the people in this story. When you create a document like a sales order, those people get on the bus, and they're carrying their posting groups with them. Then when you hit that post button, the system, our bus driver, looks at its map, which is the posting setup, and drops every single number off at its final destination, the chart of accounts.
All right, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, a bus, a map, it still sounds kind of complicated. But what if I told you that this entire, seemingly complex system, it all boils down to one incredibly simple, elegant idea? Let's break it down.
Seriously, that's it. Think about any transaction you make. You buy a coffee. Who are you dealing with? The coffee shop. What are you buying? A latte. Business Central, at its core, uses this exact same logic for every single thing that happens in the system.
And here's how it does it. The who is handled by the General Business Posting Group. This is how you categorize everyone you do business with, domestic customers, foreign vendors, you name it. And the what? That's the General Product Posting Group. This is how you categorize everything you sell or buy, retail goods, raw materials, professional services. This who and what combination, it's the foundation for everything.
Okay, theory is great, but let's see this in action. We have our two key ingredients, the who and the what. Now let's follow a real sales transaction from the very beginning all the way to the end and watch the magic happen.
So our story starts with our customer, Example Corp. Now on their customer card, we've set them up with the Domestic General Business Posting Group. That's our who. Right there, the system has learned a critical piece of information it's going to use in just a minute.
And next up, the what. Example Corp wants to buy an executive chair. So on the item card for that chair, we've set the General Product Posting Group to furniture. And boom, the system now has the second piece of our puzzle.
Now for the fun part. A salesperson creates an invoice. They pick Example Corp and they pick the executive chair. Business Central, being super smart, immediately grabs domestic from the customer and furniture from the item and puts them both together on the invoice. This is that key moment where the who meets the what.
And here is the payoff. When that invoice gets posted, the system looks at this matrix. It's kind of like playing a game of Battleship, right? It goes down the rows to find domestic, our who. It goes across the columns to find furniture, our what. And where they intersect? Bingo! It finds the exact GL account for sales revenue, 40,1000. It's simple, it's elegant, and it happens perfectly every single time.
Okay, so we've totally nailed the who and what combination. That's the heart of the system. But you're probably wondering, what about all the other stuff, like sales tax or inventory or what the customer owes me? Well, for that, we bring in the specialists.
The best way to think of these guys is like a pit crew in a Formula One race. The main engine, our who and what, is doing all the heavy lifting, getting us down the track. But then these specialists jump in. One of them handles the tires. That's like your VAT. Another one refuels the car. That's your customer balances. A third one checks the inventory value. They each have a very specific job, and they all work together to make sure the whole transaction is flawless.
So first up, the VAT posting groups. And guess what?
They use that exact same who and what matrix logic we just learned. It's just a separate matrix built specifically for calculating and posting taxes. So you already know how this works. It's just for a different job.
Now, the customer and vendor posting groups, they're way simpler. There's no matrix here. It's just a direct link. It basically says, anytime we sell to a domestic customer, their balance, the money they owe us, goes into this one specific accounts receivable account. Simple, clean, and absolutely crucial. Then we have the inventory posting group. This is like the personal accountant for your warehouse. It looks at the location code on the transaction and makes sure the value of your inventory is always perfectly accurate on your balance sheet. It keeps your physical stock and your financial books perfectly in sync. And finally, for your big-ticket items, your machinery, your buildings, there's a dedicated posting group for fixed assets. This thing tracks the entire life story of an asset, from the day you buy it, through every bit of depreciation, all the way to the day you sell it. It's the complete financial biography of your company's most valuable possessions.
Man, we have covered a lot of ground, from that high-level GPS view all the way down to the specialist pit crew. But I've saved the single most important piece of advice for last. Now that we know how it all works, how do we design a system that's a thing of beauty from day one?
Up until now, we've been following the data on its natural path, from a customer or an item forward to the general ledger. But here's the secret, the thing that separates a good setup from a great one. When you actually design the system, you have to completely flip that around and work in reverse. This right here is the golden rule. Don't start by creating a bunch of posting groups. Start with your reports. Ask yourself, what information do I need to see at the end of the month? What story does my financial data need to tell me? Design your chart of accounts to tell that story first. Then, and only then, do you build the posting groups backward from there to feed it the right information. It's about starting with the why, not the how.
So if you only take away 3 things today, let them be these. Number 1, posting groups are the GPS for your financials. Number 2, the whole system is built on that simple idea of combining the who and the what. And number 3, the most important one, a truly great setup starts with the end goal, your chart of accounts.
See, at the end of the day, posting groups aren't just some technical setting in a piece of software. They are the bridge that connects everything you do every day to the financial story of your business. They're the tool that turns all that raw data into real insight. So now that you know the logic, you get to be the author. What story are you going to make your data tell?